So thank you so much for this warm welcome, and it's lovely to see so many happy faces in the audience. I am very privileged to be sitting here with Miss Cheon and our interpreter, Miss Meera. So I feel it's a very special session because my understanding of science fiction used to be, it's in the future, there are a lot of technology things happening, and there's a lot of things happening very fast. When I read Miss Cheon's first book, for me, my first book, A Thousand Blues, the characters not only had a lot of things happening, but also there was so much emotional depth, there was so much creativity, there was so much, spark of life in those technology characters that I felt very happy when I was given this chance to moderate this session. So without further ado, I welcome all of y'all to the Hong Kong Book Fair, and I welcome Ms. Cheon and Ms. Meera. And now I would like to introduce Ms. Cheon for those of you who may not know her. So she is a very dynamic and visionary voice in Korean science fiction today. Her first novel, which was actually about a nuclear apocalypse, right? That sounds so interesting. It's called The Broken Bridge. And it rose to prominence because of the quirky way, the different way in which it handled the characters. Then her breakout novel, which maybe most of us have read, A Thousand Blues, talks about taking life slowly. It talks about emotional depth, and I'm so excited that we'll be discussing all of this today. And most of her stories have her characters in extreme situations where they get out of that through resilience. They fight back. And she is in 2024, she was honored as the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism Young Artist of the Day. She is also a 2022 young writer who will become the future of Korean literature. Wow, that's amazing, right? And right now she's working on a new novel and drama script called Black Box on Earth, which talks about climate change through music and technology. Yes, so cool. And she's also a member of the Korean Federation of Science and Technology Writers. So without further ado, let's begin this wonderful session with Ms. Cheon. So one of my first questions to Ms. Cheon is actually about her writing journey. What drew you to science fiction?
저는 어렸을 때부터 봐왔던 만화나 애니메이션, 영화 이런 것들 너무 당연하게 SF 장르였어요. 네, 그래서 되게 자연스럽게 소설을 창작할 때에도 어떤 SF 장르로 좀 더 쉽게 가져갈 수 있었던 것 같습니다.
For me, actually, this is a very natural process because when I was young, since a young age, I really was interested in the movies and the animations and the cartoons that were talking about the sci-fi world. So I was deeply already understanding, and also I was connected to SF world. So it was very natural for me when I decided to write. I started from SF genre.
All right. Wow, that's so it's your childhood influences which drew you to science fiction. Okay. But even then, why such unusual and powerful worlds? So I'm reading something from your introduction where you say humans become non-mainstream and animals and robots become mainstream. So how did you think about this completely different concept?
뭔가 일반적인 그런 관념을 벗어나서 인간이 메인스트림이 아니라 그 동물과 로봇가 메인스트림인 그런 세계를 상상하시게 된 것에 어떤 것이 그런 영감을 주셨는지, 어떤 것에 영감을 받아서 이렇게 소설을 구상하게 되셨는지 말씀해 주십시오.
처음 질문이랑 좀 비슷한 결이긴 한데요. 어렸을 때부터 워낙에 외계인이나 로봇이 그리고 혹은 괴물 이런 캐릭터들이 주인공인 것들을 많이 봐오다 보니까 그런 친구들이 주인공으로 왔을 때 해줄 수 있는 얘기들이 있더라고요. 인간을 좀 더 낯설게 보게 한다던가 아니면 인간의 시선으로는 보지 못했던 세상을 설명해 준다던가 그렇게 하다 보니 어떤 그런 쪽으로 좀 더 이야기에 흥미를 가지게 된 것 같습니다.
Most of the SF novels I read, actually, they were not really humans as the main characters. They were rather extraterrestrial ET characters and the monster characters, and they had something to tell the mankind. And then through those conversations coming from outside, I got to see how the humans can interpret differently. It's not human way of thinking, but something different, something from output from outside. And then I got very interested in this kind of thinking. So it was natural for me to think of something non-human characters.
All right, very interesting. So, like I said, most of the novels I had read, science fiction, humans are the main characters. Most of the science fiction movies we see, right? But here we see a complete difference where humans are non-mainstream and animals and robots become the main characters. So, it's wonderful to read something like this. So now we come to her, famous novel, the one that has been, it has sold 50,000 copies. It has been made into plays, and it has been performed worldwide. 1,000 Blues, right? So maybe most of you have read that. So my first question about 1,000 Blues is, 1,000 Blues begins with the idea that we all have to practice running slowly. Okay? Now, what does this phrase mean to you? And to the story. Thank you.
그 천개의 파랑이라는 것이 우리 모두가 좀 천천히 달려야 하는 것을 배워야 한다라는 그런 이제 구상을 가지고 시작을 하는데요. 이 문구가 본인에게 의미하는 바와 또 그 스토리에게 주는 미닝이 어떤 것이 있는지 설명해 주십시오.
이건 좀 더 개인적인 얘기인데요. 저는 21살부터 현재까지 이제 어머니의 간병을 하면서 지냈던 시절이 이어지고 있고요. 그러다 보니까 20대 때 다른 친구들에 비해서 제가 좀 뒤처지고 있다라는 생각을 되게 많이 했어요. 그래서 남들은 제 속도로 나아가고 있는데 저 혼자만 멈춰 있다라는 생각을. 근데 그런 생각을 깨게 하기 위해 노력했던 것들이 모두에게 각자 다른 속도가 있고 나는 내 속도로 그냥 천천히 나아가기만 하면 된다라는 생각을 늘 가지고 있었거든요. 그래서 천개의 파랑을 쓸 때 그 문장을 가장 앞에서 세웠고, 그래서 역시나 천개의 파랑에서도 사회 속에서 되게 늦춰져 있다라고 혹은 자신의 시간이 멈춰져 있다라고 생각하는 캐릭터들이 다시 천천히 달리면서 각자의 속도로 나아가는 이야기가 되었습니다.
I have to talk about my personal journey because since I was 21 years old, I've been looking after my mother who got the brain hemorrhage, and she has been suffering from the stroke. So I've been looking after her since when I was 21 until now, continuing. And so my years of my 20s was somewhat different from all the other young people in their 20s. So I always thought that other people are progressing as normally as 20s people do progress, but I was always thinking I was behind. I was behind of everyone. And then it dawned on me this idea that everybody has different speed of living their lives. And so I started to overcome this idea that I'm behind. So I just wanted to find my own speed, and also I wanted to know whether other people also need to find their own speed by slowing down. So rather than speeding up like everybody does without any purpose, I wanted to find my own speed and also inspire other people to find their own speed. And using my character in this, in this case, it's a horse, a race horse. And so the race horse also needed to learn how to run slowly. So that's how it was developed. This story of this character and also this idea of running slowly.
Wow, that's so inspiring. That's so inspiring that this is actually drawn from your real life. And first of all, I must say you're an amazing daughter for taking such good care of your mother. And yes, what you're saying is true. We all should learn that we all have our own speed. As Miss Meera so beautifully interpreted, we all have our own speed. And there is no need to compete with other people, right? Yes, go at your own speed. This is such beautiful thought. And now I can understand why people are such fans of your writing. Yeah, this is very inspiring. So, now we come to the next question, which is the robot collie and the horse today are non-human characters, right? So, animals and robots. Yet, they express deep emotions. So, how do you approach writing emotional depth, such emotional depth, in characters who are not human?
여기 그 천개파랑에 나오는 주인공들 중에 콜리하고 그 로버트죠. 그리고 투데이라는 그 경마가 인간이 아니면서도 굉장히 인간처럼 강한 어떤 감정을 가지고 그것을 표현을 하는데 이렇게 인간이 아닌 캐릭터들에게 이렇게 깊은 감정적인 요소를 부여하기 위해서 어떻게 접근을 하셨나요?
저는 일단 감정이라는 것 자체가 우리가 갖고 있다라고 생각은 하지만 어느 정도는 사회적인 약속이라고 생각을 해요. 기쁠 때는 웃거나 슬플 때는 운다라는 식의 표현인 거죠. 그래서 그런 약속만 지켜준다면 그게 상대방이 로봇이든 동물이든 외계인이든 그 응당한 액션을 할 때 우리는 그것을 감정으로 받아들일 것 같거든요. 그래서 콜리라는 캐릭터를 설계할 때도 이 로봇이 정말로 감정을 가지고 있다라고 생각은 하지 않았고 대신 적당한 때에 적당한 질문을 던지고 적당할 때에 그럴듯한 반응을 하게끔 표현을 하면 캐릭터들은 물론이고 읽는 독자분들도 콜리에게서 감정을 느낄 수 있겠구나라고 생각을 해서 그런 방향으로 이제 글을 쓰게 되었습니다.
So I actually originally I think that people regard themselves as an emotional animal, right? People think they have emotions, but it may be actually a social promise between people. To form a society for people to live together. We express our happiness by smiling. We express our sadness by crying or tears. So as long as this promise is kept, maybe the robots and animals and ET or monsters can actually express this way if they are programmed like that. So for me, when I thought about this character, Robot Collie, I didn't really think a robot can have like human emotions, but if you put a program in Collie's body or brain that the social promise that humans react to certain emotions, then probably the characters in the story can react the same as humans, and as well as the human beings, the readers will react to Collie's expressions. So in this way, the emotions can be actually regarded. You think you understand other people's emotions, but it's as the other, you understand the other people. So for me, I express some emotions, but he or she, the other people don't really understand my true emotions, my real emotions, because they see me as the other person. So. In this way, I think it is a kind of humans could be also programmed in a way, the emotions that we have truly, and then to what extent we have emotions. So this was an exploration for me.
All right. So, because I know Collie, Broccoli as his original name is, and then we have Collie, actually has a chip that was implemented in him that was not supposed to be implemented in jockeys, right? So, I understand what you're saying about programming. He was programmed to have emotions, and then he became a jockey because of a human mistake. And then later on, he influenced the lives of all the people he met. And he also sacrificed himself in the end just to make today happy. So, in many ways, we can say his emotional depth is much more than some humans because he was programmed to do so. So, I completely understand, that. And of course, animals have a lot of emotions. So, now this story, which is so emotionally, having such emotional depth and has touched the life of so many people, has been actually adapted into plays and musicals, definitely in South Korea and maybe all over the world. So, how do you feel seeing your work, your novel that you have written, made into plays and performed? Like, how does it make you feel?
그 연극이나 이제 뮤지컬로 다른 형태의 그런 예술로 그 작성이 되어서 표현이 되고 있는데요. 작가님의 그 작품들이 그래서 이러한 것들을 보면서 어떤 생각이 드시는지 그리고 어떤 그 변화가 가해졌다고 생각하십니까?
일단 뮤지컬과 연극을 처음 봤을 때는요. 소설이 성장해 나갈 수 있구나라는 생각을 했어요. 그래서 그렇게 뮤지컬과 연극은 소설보다 훨씬 더 커져 있었고 더 제 손을 완전히 떠났다. 그래서 이 이야기는 내가 처음 썼던 처음의 이야기보다 어떤 독자들의 해석과 각색하는 과정에서 더 많은 이야기를 담을 수 있게 되었구나라는 생각을 가장 많이 했고요. 그리고 차이점은 이제 뮤지컬에서 이 책에 나오는 언급은 되지만 세세하게 나오지 않는 인물 중에 하나가 엄마의 그냥 아빠 이야기가 되게 짧게 나오는데 그 로맨스 부분이 많이 들어가 있어요. 그래서 사람들은 로맨스를 굉장히 좋아하는구나를 좀 깨닫게 되었습니다.
So when I watched the musical and I went to the theater to see how they were like interpreting my work, and I really I was astonished to find out that actually the story they are expressing was much bigger than when I first wrote it. So I felt like this artwork has left me, and there's the different interpretations of the readers, and the adaptations of the producers were all added up. So actually, my intention was this much, but what they express is much bigger. That's what I felt when I first saw their reinterpretations of my stories, and. So in a way, the story itself is becoming, growing bigger and bigger. That was my impression. And also I realized that people really like romance because in this theater, they actually emphasize more of the romance between I just wrote short love story between the mother in the story and the father. But in this theater, they actually expanded that area, so there was a love story it's described, and the audience was so hooked, and I realized that people really like romance.
Yeah, people do like romance. So, what do you think changes when a story moves from page to stage? Like your story, like you said, it's growing, it has moved beyond you. Maybe in the future it'll be a movie. So what do you think changes? Does the essence of the story actually go away? Does it become commercialized? What do you think? What are the changes you think happens?
그 변화가 이렇게 일어난 것 중에 하나가 있다면은 이제 어떤 처음에는 순수한 창작 소설이었을 텐데 처음에 쓰셨을 적에는 근데 그런 것이 이렇게 그 어떤 성공을 위한 어떤 그 뭐 뮤지컬이라든가 이런 것으로 만들어졌을 적에 제작되었을 적에 어떤 상업적인 그런 요소도 가미될 것 같고 그래서 그런 것이 그 스토리가 책에 들어가 있을 때랑 그렇게 세상에 나와서 다른 형태로 표현이 됐을 적에 그런 어떤 뭐 부정적이나 낙관적인 어떤 좋은 뭐 어떤 변화가 있다고 생각하는 본인이 느끼시기에는 어떤 것이 있다고 생각하십니까?
책이 다른 매체로 가는 과정에서는 분명히 상업적인 부분이 많이 끼어들게 되더라고요. 그래서 청계파랑이 아니라 저희 다른 소설이나 다른 소설이 드라마화가 되거나 어떤 연극화가 될 때에는 그래서 뭔가 성별이 바뀐다거나 조금 더 시청률을 올리기 위해서 여성의 캐릭터가 남성의 캐릭터로 변화한다거나라는 식의 변화들이 생기더라고요. 근데 청계파랑은 예외적으로 많은 분들께서 원작을 그대로 살리는 방향으로 가기를 원하셔갖고 유일하게 뭐 성별의 변화도 없었고 뭐 억지로 더 극대화한 부분도 없는 작품이었습니다.
My impression about my work, the A Thousand Blues, becoming a drama and musicals and dramatized and made into musicals, was somewhat different from my observation of other works, other writings becoming movies and other form of the art expression, because mostly, as you mentioned. Most of cases for musicals or movies and dramas, they want to have like commercial success. But so they naturally after that, the producers probably change the characters somewhat. For example, it was a female character initially in the book, but it becomes like expressed as a man character in the movies or something like that. So that's my observation. But surprisingly, my work was actually preserved as it was nothing, the major changed at all. And the producers told me that actually they wanted to keep the essence of my writing as it is, even if it was like a bigger, audience and has bigger audience and bigger interpretation than my intention initially. So I was quite happily surprised that my work was preserved.
Wow, that's so nice to hear that you're so happy with the way they have preserved the essence of what you're what you have written, and they have not spoilt it by commercializing it. And I hope someday, and maybe many of us hope someday, to see your work in the form of a musical if it performs here in Hong Kong, because that would be amazing. So, yeah. So that brings me to the next question. So, Korean science fiction nowadays is becoming very popular. Many of us have started, I'm talking about people who are not from Korea, but many of us are very interested in Korean science fiction, just like we are very interested in all things Korean nowadays, right? So, what do you think makes Korean science fiction different from science fiction around the world?
한국의 그러니까 sci-fi 문학 작품이라든지 예술 작품들이 굉장히 전 세계적으로 국제적인 인기를 끌고 있는데, 많은 이제 K 문화라든가 뭐 그런 것이 이제 세계를 지금 휩쓸고 있듯이 K 문학 작품들도 많이, 특히 사이언스 픽션 쪽에서 많이 이제 인기를 끌고 있습니다. 근데 어떤 차별성을 가졌기에 이렇게 한국 작품이 인기를 끌게 되었는지 궁금합니다.
저는 이 차별점이 한국 SF로만 국한되지는 않는 것 같고, 좀 더 넓게 보자면 아시아 SF, 특히 아시아 여성 작가들의 SF로 확장시켜서 생각이 들더라고요. 왜냐하면 제가 최근에 그 영국 쪽 출판사분들이랑 미팅을 한 적이 있었는데, 그때 들었던 이야기 중 하나가 한국 작가들의 특징 중에 하나가 되게 장르가 갖고 있는 규칙들이 있잖아요. 뭐 SF라고 할 때, 혹은 호러라고 할 때, 뭐 추리라고 할 때 있는 그 규칙성보다도 훨씬 더 본인들이 느끼고 있는 억압된 사회나 차별점에 대해 크게 목소리를 내는 편이고, 그게 굉장히 색다르게 다가온다고 하셨거든요. 근데 마찬가지로 제가 최근에는 중국 작가님 3명과 한국 여성 작가 3명, 이렇게 총 6명의 여성 작가들끼리 SF 엔솔로지를 출간을 했고, 이제 그게 다음 달에 중국에 출간이 되는데요. 근데 그때 작업할 때 느꼈던 거는, 아시아 여성 작가들이 SF를 쓸 때 본인들이 평소에 혹은 사회에서 계속 느껴왔던 억압이나 답답함들을 훨씬 더 크게 목소리를 낼 수 있는 장이 되는 것 같더라고요. 저는 그게 아시아 여성 SF 작가님들의 가장 큰 특징이라고 생각을 합니다.
Actually, I don't want to. I wouldn't put limit that the SF popularity in Korean SF stories because my experience says that actually it's already expanded into Asian women writers, the SF writers. They are quite successful Asia women SF writers, and they they share a lot of similar trend among themselves, like me as well, me included. So, for example, recently I met the publisher from the UK, and that publisher actually told me that his impression about Korean SF is about expressing very boldly about the oppression that Korean women had to go through, and also. By the way, that the genre, they tend to ignore the like norms of genre, different genre like SF genre, horror genre, and detective genre. There are certain methodology that you have to keep in your stories, but the Korean writers, SF writers, for example, tend to ignore those norms. And that's quite striking, and maybe that's the successful element for success. To this English the publisher told me that, and also I have another experience with 3 Chinese women SF writers and 3 Korean SF writers. We got together, and then we published anthology, SF anthologies book, and which is gonna be published in China next month. By doing this all together, 6 of us got together, and we got this anthology out, and we all agreed that in normal our growing process and society in Asia in general, we have this oppressiveness, against women, and there are many areas that need improvement on women's rights and women's well-being. So this SF genre is a surprisingly good genre, good area that we can express it freely. So it's a very wonderful area. We can actually express our oppressions and our social discriminations. So actually, I don't want to limit it into Korean SF stories, but expand it at least to the Asia women's SF.
All right. Wow, that's so interesting. And yes, now that you talk about it, the recent Asian science fiction that I've read have actually dealt with women's issues. Even your novel, A Thousand Blues, most of the main characters are women. The mother, the 2 daughters, even the doctor who takes care of the horses. And through those, we can look at their backstories. In fact, one of the male characters, he's only called the firefighter. His name was never given, right? And like you said, the romantic part and all of that is done. But I always wondered why the father never had a name. So now I understand it's because we are looking at the world of science fiction from the view of women, from the perspective of women. And maybe that's very necessary because their voice can be heard. So, are there any parts of Korean culture that influence your stories? When I read your stories, I saw there was a lot of discussion of Korean food. I was like feeling very hungry when I was reading all the Korean food that everyone was eating. But are there any Korean culture, authors, stories, mythology, or characters that inspire you when writing?
작품을 처음에 쓰실 적에 그 한국의 어떤 전통적인 문화라든가 뭐 성장할 적에 어떤 겪었던 한국 문화의 어떤 부분이 스토리 라이팅에 어떤 영향을 끼쳤는지 알고 싶고요. 그리고 뭐 어떤 그 영향을 받았던 작가라든가 뭐 스토리라든가 뭐 전설 뭐 그런 캐릭터들이 영향을 뭐 어떤 영감을 준 바가 있나요?
한국의 전통적인 어떤 문화에서는 사실 크게는 없는 것 같고요. 대신에 저는 고등학교 때부터 문학 전공을 계속 해왔던 사람이라 그 당시에 읽었던 여성 작가님들의 소설들이 제가 소설을 계속 꾸준히 쓸 수 있게 해준 원동력이었어요. 그래서 당시에 뭐 한강 작가님도 계시고, 뭐 구병모 작가님도 계시고, 그리고 그 김보영 작가님도 계시고요. 그래서 그런 왕성하게 활동하고 있는 여성 작가님들의 영향을 제일 많이 받은 것 같습니다. 네.
Actually, I don't think I was influenced by the Korean culture too much, but I was rather influenced by the writings of the very famous Korean writers in those days, especially women writers, called Hangang, who got the award recently, the Nobel Award, and the Gu Byung-mo and Kim Bo-young. These writers were very successful. So when I was growing up, so I was reading all their works. And because I was majoring the literature and also creative writing since my secondary school years, so I got influenced by these, famous writers and also their writing styles. And so I'd like to just mention those people.
Wow. So I have not read all of these women authors, but I've definitely heard of the Korean author who recently won the Nobel Prize. And I can understand all these women writers were like the inspiration and something that your guiding light for writing, right? So now we come to the story of 3%, which is the name of this session. And it's actually from the short story collection called Moss Forest. So Moss Forest tells the story of children who rely on just a 3% chance of hope. When I read 1,000 Blues, I remember the mother actually did not have a chance of survival, but the father, the firefighter, saved her even though there was again just a 3% chance. So why this chance of 3%? What does this mean to you emotionally and philosophically? Yes.
그 이끼숲이라는 단편작에서도 아이들이 나오면서 이제 3% 희망에 기대서 살아가는 이야기가 나오고, 또 제가 그 천개 파랑을 읽었을 적에도 그 소방관이 이제 살 가능성이 없는 엄마를 살려주는 이야기가 나오는데 거기도 3%라는 말이 언급이 되었던 것 같아요. 그래서 어떤 이유로 그 3%라는 것을 이렇게 구상을 하셨는지 말씀해 주십시오.
그 3%는 또 역시나 개인적인 이유인데, 저희 어머니가 그러니까 뇌출혈이 오셨을 때 의사가 했던 얘기가 그 생존 확률이 3%라는 말이었어요. 그러니까 한마디로 생존 확률이 없다라는 뜻이었는데, 저희 어머니가 그 3%의 확률을 이기고 사셨거든요. 그래서 그때부터 인간에게 0.1%라도 가능성이 있다라는 것은 불가능이 아니라는 거구나라는 걸 좀 깨닫게 되면서 그 아주 희박한 희망을 가지고 나아가는 인물들에 대한 이야기를 좀 많이 쓰게 되는 것 같습니다.
Also, this is my personal life. That's the reason, because when my mother had a brain hemorrhage, the doctor told us that your mother has 3% chance to live, which means basically she's going to die. But only 3%, even 0.1%, if you have the chance to live, then you shouldn't give up. Because my mother overcame that risk, that crisis, by 3% possibility, and she survived. And so I think even if we have very small, slim chance of success or slim chance of life, there's nothing that you should give up on, because anything is possible. So that's very small, slim chance, slim hope. With very slim hope, people can go forward. I think I've been writing with this philosophy, and also I like to keep writing with to give people the hope not to give up.
Wow, that's such an inspiring sentence. Write with the hope to inspire people not to give up. And even if there is a 3% or a 2% or a 1% chance of winning and making it, then give it your best. That is so inspiring. And so now I understand why this session is called the story of 3%. Because it's inspired from your personal life, from your own experience with your mother. Now, You've said that Moss Forest was written with the power of extreme sadness. So, how do you transform sadness into strength, right? Because these children, even though they were so sad, they made it. So, how do you transform such extreme sadness into such extreme strength through your storytelling?
그 이끼숲을 쓰셨을 적에 거기에는 이제 굉장히 극단적인 슬픔의 어떤 파워가 이렇게 묘사가 되어 있는데, 그러니까 예를 들어서 이제 거기에 아이들이 극단적인 슬픔을 극복하고 어떤 극단적인 강한 힘으로 변화가 되는 그런 과정이 그려져 있는데, 어떻게 그런 스토리텔링을 그런 변화를 이룰 수 있었는지 그 얘기를 듣고 싶습니다.
저는 결국에 모든 이야기는 슬픔의 정서를 가장 크게 가지고 간다고 생각을 해요. 그래서 친한 작가님들끼리 우스갯소리로 우리는 행복하면 글을 쓸 수 없다라는 얘기를 하기는 하는데, 그래서 그런지 이야기는 결국에 내가 삶에서 느끼고 있는 슬픔을 옮겨 담아 놓는 것이고, 그리고 그거를 읽는 독자분들이 공감을 하고 위로를 하면서 뭔가 정화의 작용을 한다고 생각하거든요. 그래서 가끔 이끼숲을 쓸 당시에 한국에서도 그 이태원에서 커다란 참사가 일어나서 젊은 친구들이 많이 목숨을 잃은 사건이 있었어요. 그래서 그때 느꼈던 거대한 어떤 상실감과 슬픔이 창작을 할 때 많이 반영이 되기도 했고요. 네.
For me, and also a lot of writers agree with me that sadness is in everyone, and everyone has sadness. And a lot of our friends, close writer group, we openly joke about it, because if you're not sad, you can't write. So somehow every story in the world has a bit of a sadness or big sadness in the background, and that's actually transmitted from their own lives, and the life itself is in somehow some sad note in life. So when the writers write about their lives or somebody else's lives, or imaginative story writing, there is an element of sadness in every writing. That's my thinking. And by writing the sadness and transforming it into another form, that's a kind of a process of reaching to the catharsis and reaching to the cleansing. So this process is actually giving a lot of consolation to many people. By expressing the sadness, actually you share this emotion with many readers, many people, and everybody shares the consolation, and that becomes a power to go forward, not really giving up. So actually, when I wrote this story, especially there was Itaewon incident where a lot of young people died, crushed to death, and then there was a lot of sense of loss and big sadness in the society. And this shared sadness can be reflected in the writings, and some of it did in my case as well.
Yes, we all remember the horrible Halloween accident that happened in Korea, and the sadness that was felt by all the parents, the entire country, and in the entire world actually, that so many young people lost their lives. So yes, I do understand what you're trying to say, that extreme sadness can convert into an art form. And sometimes it's helpful, it's like therapy, because it helps you to write and process your emotions. And I think that is what happens in your writing also. So that's why it's so powerful, because the reader can understand that it comes from raw emotions. So, and that brings me to my next question, which is, both your novels, Thousand Blues and Moss Forest, are extremely popular among young generation, among millennials and the Gen Z. Why do you think this is? Why do you think young people love your stories and connect with it so much?
이 천개파랑과 이끼숲은 둘 다 굉장한 그 젊은 독자들에게 인기를 끌고 있습니다. 근데 이렇게 밀레니얼들이라든지 뭐 MZ 세대가 작가님과 이렇게 감정적으로 연계가 되는 그렇게 깊게 이렇게 이끌리고 연계가 되는 이유가 뭐라고 생각하십니까?
그걸 알면 더 노려볼 텐데.
I'd like to know really the reason.
근데 요즘 한국에서는요, 좀 책을 읽는 게 유행처럼 퍼지고 있어요. 좋은 영향인 거죠. 근데 요즘에는 워낙에 자기를 증명해야 되는 자리들이 많잖아요. 내가 어떤 사람인지, 뭐를 좋아하는지를 아직 확립이 되지 않은 상황에서 계속 끊임없이 그거를 요구하는 시대에서 어떤 책을 읽는다는 거, 어떤 작가를 좋아한다라는 것 자체가 그 작가의 생각이나 표현에 동의한다라는 어떤 일종의 자기 표현의 수단이 된 것 같아요. 그런 면에서 제가 뭐 천개의 파랑도 그렇고 이끼숲에서도 결국에는 절망적인 시대에서도 희망을 놓지 않는 이야기들을 주로 쓰다 보니까 본인들이 생각할 때에도 이렇게 뭔가 취업도 잘 되지 않고 기후 위기도 심하고 어떤 전쟁도 일어나고 있는 이 시대에서 나는 희망을 놓지 않겠다라는 메시지에 좀 동의를 많이 하는 게 아닐까라는 생각은 하고 있습니다.
But I can maybe talk about my reasoning why it's so popular among the young readers. Because in Korea at the moment, there's a trend of young people reading a lot, which is a good trend in my thinking. Because people ask each other, what are you? And you have to express yourself, what kind of person you are, what character are you, and people in a way choose the books that they read to express what they are. So in a way, the books that the writers write, and it's written by certain writers, and the content and the story. And if you are buying that book and read the book, and that means you are actually agreeing, you like this writer, and you are agreeing to the concept and the stories that you're really sympathizing with the story. So in a way, if your friend asks you what book are you reading, and then I'm reading this book, Miss Cheon's book, and that means okay, you agree with Miss Cheon's ideas and storytelling. So somehow they express themselves by the writers in a way, in writers' books. So in this the modern era, there are a lot of crises for young people, joblessness and unemployment, climate crisis, and there's warfare going on in the world, and it looks so dark and negative to a lot of young minds. But my book actually wants to express hope, even if it looks so dark and depressive. You hold on to the hope, and you can go forward. Don't give up. And so, if someone's buying my book and read it, then they want to have hope, and they want to overcome this crisis, and they want to go forward. So I think it's a good thing that people read my books.
So young people actually express their personalities, like who they are, by the books that they read, by the authors that they read. And then probably if people read similar kind of books, they become friends, or they kind of agree with each other's opinions. It helps to socially assimilate in society. And I'm so happy to hear that people are reading more, because I have a 6-year-old son, and I'm constantly trying to tell him read, because that's what's going to help you, and he just wants his tablet. So I'm so happy to hear that young people in Korea are actually reading and expressing their personality with the help of authors like you. So that's really good work. Yeah. So now we come to questions on how do you write, because we all want to understand the intellect and the mind of the person who is writing such out-of-the-world books, right? So one of my first question is, what is your writing process like? Like, do you do a lot of research and, write down the characters, make a flow chart, do all of that? Or do you write in a flow, like just guided by your emotions? Yeah.
하나 제가 또 궁금한 것이 있는데요. 그렇게 쓰는 작업을 할 적에 어떤 방식으로 진행을 하시는지, 먼저 캐릭터를 생각하시는지, 아니면 어떤 플로우를 정해놓고 쓰기 시작하시는지, 스토리 아이디어가 먼저 떠오르시는지, 아니면 그냥 앉아가지고 뭐든지 끄적이면서 쓰기 시작하는지, 아니면 감정이나 본능에 따라서 쓰시는지 알고 싶습니다.
지금 생각해 보면요, 약간 감정이나 본능에 가까운 것 같습니다. 그것들이 어떤 하나의 선명한 이미지로 먼저 떠오르면은 그 이미지에 이제 캐릭터가 어떻게 있고 어떤 사건이 일어나고 있고 그리고 무엇보다도 이 글에는 내가 어떤 감정을 넣을 것인가를 좀 중점적으로 생각을 해서 이제 이야기를 좀 구축해 나가는 것 같습니다.
I think for my case is I start with emotions or instinct because when I remember a certain image very clearly, suddenly I remember certain images or certain scenes that I've seen somewhere or I experienced some time ago. Then I start to write, and then by the image, the characters are now starting to be alive, and then the characters, the story. The context is building up, and also by doing this process, I try to think of what emotions I will put into this character. So initially, it's my own experience, my own images, and that sparks the writing.
All right. So actually, I would like to ask another question leading from this. So, the characters in your book are so different from anything else that we see. So whenever we see or hear or think of science fiction or watch any movies, the characters are mostly standard, right? Like superheroes or humans with special abilities, or even if they are robots, they are, rebelling against humans or something. In yours, you have a robot which is thinking emotionally. You have a horse which cannot run anymore. You have children who are trapped in a forest. You have an astronaut whose heart is inside a robot. How do you come up with these extraordinary characters? Like, I really want to understand your process for that. Yes.
그러니까 정말 궁금한데요. 그러니까 캐릭터들, 그러니까 SF나 뭐 다른 영화 그런 SF 종류의 그런 영화나 그런 여태까지 나온 작품들을 보면은 뭔가 이렇게 그 하나의 규격화되어 있는 어떤 것이 있어요. 그러니까 슈퍼히어로라든가 뭐 로봇이라면은 인간을 대적하는 로봇이라든가 그런 캐릭터로 나오는데 천 작가님은 캐릭터들이 굉장히 유니크하고 굉장히 좀 상상 외에 보통 지금까지의 것들과 전혀 다른 그런 것들이거든요. 예를 들어서 뭐 이끼숲의 아이들도 그렇고 또 그 천개파랑에 나오는 말과 그 자키 그 기수 콜리도 그렇고요. 그래서 어떻게 하면 이렇게 기발하게 캐릭터들을 창출할 수 있는지 정말 궁금합니다.
기발한가요?
Really unusual the characters.
너무 좋은 칭찬이고요.
I'm so flattered by your compliments.
글쎄요, 저는 캐릭터를 만들 때 최대한 그 캐릭터가 이 세상 어딘가에 살아있다라고 믿고 싶게 만드는 게 제 목표거든요. 그래서 책을 덮은 후에도 그 캐릭터의 남은 삶이 궁금해지게 하는 게 목표이다 보니까 캐릭터를 만들 때 얘가 단편적으로 보여지지 않기 위해 노력을 하는 것 같아요. 예를 들어 말씀하셨던 것처럼 영웅서사라고 하면 사실 악당과 주인공에게는 뚜렷한 장점들만 보이잖아요. 근데 그런 것들보다도 이 캐릭터가 살아있음을 나타내주는 거는 그 어떤 육각형의 다양한 면모들이라 생각을 해서 그런 거를 좀 다채롭게 담아보려고 노력을 하는 것 같아요. 네.
For me, the characters, when I think of characters and write down, in the storytelling about the characters, I try to imagine them living characters in this world, and I want the readers also to be curious about, after they read the whole book, close the book, and they'll be still curious about what happened afterwards. And how would they live on their lives in the characters in the story? So that's my purpose in writing. When I write about the characters, I want to give a lot of inquisitiveness and the curiosity from the readers about the characters that I foremost think of the characters as living being, and I want the readers feel the same. So just like heroes and the villains in those SF movies, they have very clear purpose in their stories, and then after that, there's nothing much. But my characters, I want them to live on, like different edges, many edges, having many edges. So they have many different facets of their characters. So you'll be curious about them. So in this situation, what will this character react, and how would they live on, and this kind of after the imagination. I want to trigger that imagination in the readers even after reading my whole book.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, the little that I've read of your work, I was left intrigued, and I was left like, I want to know what happens. Like, how did you suddenly stop it? Yeah, and I think sometimes you also shift focus from first person to third person. So the entire story was in the first person, but the last was in the third person, where it was like a conclusion. And I was like, no, I want to know what happens. So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
궁금증을 계속 살아나게 한다는 그 목표는 이렇게 달성하신 것 같아요. 저는 정말 궁금하거든요. 그 1인칭에서 또 3인칭으로 바뀌는 그런 것도 굉장히 기발했던 것 같고요. 예, 맞는 말씀입니다.
So I know you're working on a lot of new projects now. I read that you want to now work on historical fiction and drama and mix it with science fiction and all of that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
지금 현재 역사 소설이나 다른 SF 스토리, 드라마 등등을 지금 쓰시고 계신 걸로 제가 알고 있는데요. 지금 현재 새로 쓰시고 있는 책 소개하고 싶은 게 있으시면 말씀해 주시겠어요?
저는 지금 좀비 소설을 쓰고 있어요.
I'm at the moment writing zombie stories.
저 원래도 이제 좀비를 굉장히 좋아하는데 한국에서도 좀비 영화나 드라마가 꽤 나왔잖아요. 뭐 부산행도 그렇고 킹덤도 그렇고. 그래서 사실 좀비는 이제 내가 쓰기에는 너무 많이 다뤄졌다라고 해서 안 쓰고 있었다가 안 되겠더라고요. 그래서 소설로서 제가 쓸 수 있는 좀비를 써야겠다라는 생각이 들어서 이제 열심히 쓰고 있는 중입니다. 네.
I originally liked zombie stories, so I read a lot of them and watched movies like the Train to Busan and the Kingdom. There are so many movies and the stories in Korea. There are too many, I thought, so I can't really write another one. But then I was really hooked by zombie stories, and I had to write one. So that's why I just, I was delaying. Should I write? There are so many, and then I just started on it. So we'll see.
So right now you're working on a zombie story. Okay, yeah, we love Korean zombie stories. I mean, I am a big fan. I have watched Train to Busan so many times, and yeah, I'm looking forward. I'll buy the first one as soon as it comes out. So, any of your new projects that you would like to discuss? For example, I read about a black box, which is about climate change through music and technology, or any other news work of yours that you would like to discuss with our audience?
그러니까 다른 책 외에도 새로운 프로젝트 블랙박스라든가 기후 변화 그런 것에 대해서 이제 관심을 가지고 계신데 어떤 지금 홍콩의 독자들을 위해서 본인의 어떤 뉴스 그런 게 있다면은 좀 가주세요. 공유하시겠어요?
최근에 이제 엔솔로지로 중국 작가님들과 함께 책을 낸 이후에도 뭔가 아시아 작가들이 함께 할 수 있는 프로젝트들이 꽤 많이 오고 있거든요. 그래서 앞으로 좀 더 많이 이렇게 제 소설을 소개해드릴 수 있는 장이 될 것 같고, 요즘에는 한국에서도 되게 뮤지컬과 연극에 대한 인기가 점점 많아지고 있어서 그렇게 소설을 뮤지컬이나 연극화하는 작업을 요즘에 제일 뭔가 열심히 하고 있는 일 중에 하나입니다.
Actually, as I mentioned before, I was quite interested in the process of making this anthology out with the other for example, Chinese women writers. So there are many projects. I get approached by many other writers, Asian writers. They approach me to do the project together. And using that kind of platform, I can actually introduce more of my works there. Then more Asian readers will be formed, I hope. And also another thing is I noticed that the musicals and plays are made from the original writings. And I'm involved in the process of my writings into my stories into making into musicals and plays as well, if I have to say the news.
All right. That sounds really interesting. And like I said, we hope someday there's a performance of the musicals in Hong Kong and we can see those. So now we would come to one of the last questions. So this question is a two-parter. So one of the first things I want to ask you is, do you think a formal education in writing is required, especially for young writers who want to maybe become writers in the future? Do you think they need an education background in creative writing or something like that?
제가 질문이 두 가지 마지막으로 드리고 싶은데요. 먼저 하나는 그 젊은 작가를 지망하는 젊은이들에게 어떤 글쓰기라는 그 창작 문예 뭐 그런 문예 창작과 뭐 그런 교육을 받아야 된다고 생각하십니까? 글쓰기를 위해서?
아니요, 저는 대신에 교육보다는 그 환경 속에 놓여 있는 게 중요하다고 생각을 해요. 저는 교육을 받은 사람이긴 하거든요. 그래서 예술고등학교 문예창작과를 나왔고 대학교도 문예창작과를 나왔지만 실질적으로 그 교육보다는 쓰는 아이들 속에 있어서 나도 함께 쓰고자 하는 마음이 생기는 게 제일 컸거든요. 그래서 꼭 굳이 교육을 받지 않더라도 어떤 모임이라든지 쓰는 걸 좋아하는 어떤 SNS의 모임들 같은 데에서 꾸준하게 계속 멈추지 않고 쓰는 게 제일 중요한 것 같아요.
Well, I was one of those people who got the education in the creative writing. You know, I went to the secondary school, the arts-related, you know, majoring in creative writing, and also in the university education as well. But I think it's more important to be involved in a writing group than the education itself, because I was more inspired by, you know, my co-students or my group members of writing groups. I had SNS groups, and those people who love writing, we share each other's writing, we read each other's writing and comment, and this kind of a process is more helpful and more interesting for storytelling. I think that they helped me more than the formal education, and so most important thing is when you are surrounded by these people who love writing, you keep writing, you don't stop. So sometimes you're left alone, then you get to stop and you get lazy, but they are inspiring to you and they're influencing you, and you want to encourage each other to write, keep on writing. So I think that's very important, to be involved in the group.
I completely agree with you. So I'm a senior lecturer in the university in Hong Kong, but I love writing, and that is one of the reasons I am here today, because I love writing science fiction too. Obviously not your, you know, I think your kind of writing is so different and inspiring, and that's why I have all these questions about why the characters and the style and everything is so different from the normal science fiction that I've read. But I agree. I mean, I do not have a formal education in writing. I did my MBA and my PhD, and you know, now I'm teaching boring MBA business. Okay, but since I love writing, I love science fiction, I'm obsessed with space. And so I'm part of these writing groups in Hong Kong, 2 or 3 of them actually. That's how I got connected here, and I'm here today. And I honestly feel that helps me in writing, because those group of authors, I mean, we are all, learning authors. None of us have really, published or become anything big, but we critique each other's work. We read each other's work. We give each other feedback, and I feel that's really helping me grow. And also, meeting people like you, it's so inspiring, because it gives me like a guiding light to what we can become. So I completely agree that being in a group and writing together is one of the best ways to become a writer. Yeah, and in Hong Kong, we have a lot of options for that. Yeah. Yes. All right, that was a little bit about my personal sharing. All right, so yeah, one of the last questions actually is, what advice would you give to young writers, especially in Asia, who want to write science fiction?
그러면은 이제 공상과학 영화 그 스토리를 쓰고자 하는 그 젊은 작가들에게 주고 싶은 뭐 조언이나 추천이 있으시면 마지막으로 간단하게 말씀해 주세요.
예전에 제가 봐왔던 SF 소설이나 영화들은 좀 더 미래에 대한 궁금증과 어떤 환상이 많이 섞여 있다라는 생각이 들었어요. 그때는 미래라는 게 굉장히 아득하고 멀게 느껴졌기 때문인데, 요즘 저희 사회에서는 사실 현재를 사는 사람보다 늘 미래에 가 있잖아요. 정말로 뭐 주식도 그렇고 뭐 기후위기도 그렇고 그냥 생각하는 거 다가오는 속도도 너무 빠르게 있기 때문에 어쩌면 우리는 이미 계속 미래에 살고 있는 느낌이 들거든요. 그래서 요즘에 SF를 쓸 때에는 굉장히 먼 얘기들을 쥐어 짜내려는 노력보다는 이 미래 속에서 우리가 잃지 말아야 할 것들이 무엇일까라는 그런 관점에서도 한번 생각해 보는 게 어떨까라는 생각이 들고 있습니다.
Actually, when we think of the SF novels or the movies that we have been watching and reading so far, it's more like a faraway future that you are so curious and you want to imagine what it will be like, the future, very futuristic, very far away. But I think nowadays more and more that the modern times is actually we are living the future already, that we have been imagining. But we are living that imagination now in the modern world. For example, there's stocks and stock predictions and the climate crisis, and everything's so fast, the internet and everything's going so fast. We are living in the future indeed already, I think. And because of that fact, in a way, I think when we write the SF novels now, then don't think the SF novels in the far away that you can't really grasp, but you describe what you see and what you feel, and try to find something precious that you don't want to lose in this speed and in this futuristic world. And that's one of the perspectives that I have when I write a story, SF story.
Okay, that's great advice actually, yeah. Because, yeah, whenever we think science fiction, it's like 50 years, 100 years from now. And so it's not clear in our head and we go into the realms of imagination. So you're thinking of just like right now, the present with AI and, all of that's happening right now. We can actually think we are in the future. We are already there. So now write something about people you don't want to lose, the emotions you're feeling, and the emotions the characters around you are feeling. That's amazing advice, actually. Thank you so much. I'm sure the audience would agree with it. And so now we have come to the end of the question and answer round with Ms. Cheon. And now we are open for questions from the audience. So all you have to do is scan the QR code on both sides. And once you scan, I'll get the questions over here. I already have a few questions, actually. So maybe I'll wait 1 or 2 minutes more, and then we can start the audience Q&A round. Thank you. So you can keep sending your questions. You keep scan the QR code and keep sending your questions. And I think I'll start with one of the first questions that we have.
계속 보내. Sorry.
All right. So one of the first questions we have is, what about your writing pace? For example, what time is your favorite to write every day? How long do you usually write every day or every month? And do you travel to get writing inspiration?
어떤 페이스를 가지고 계신지 어떤 작품을 쓰실 적에 가장 좋아하는 작품 쓰는 시간대가 있는지 하루에 몇 시간씩 쓰시는지 한 달에 평균적으로 몇 시간 쓰시는지 혹은 여행을 하시면서 어떤 영감을 얻기도 하시는지.
제가 한국의 무라카미 하루키인데요. 한국의 무라카미 하루키 일본 작가, 네. 이제 그분이 새벽 일찍 일어나서 달리기를 하고 글 쓰는 걸로 이제 유명하신데, 제가 그 루틴으로 살고 있어서 작가님들이 맨날 약간 농담 반 진담 반으로 해주시는 말씀이세요. 그래서 저는 보통 새벽에 일어나서 오전 중에는 반드시 소설을 쓰는 편이에요. 그래서 여행을 와서도 오늘도 역시나 아침에 일어나서 러닝을 하고 오전 중에는 소설 작업을 하다가 이제 오후에 일을 해서 하루에 오전 시간 3-4시간은 무조건 소설을 쓰는데 쓰고 있습니다.
So people joke with me. People call me I am the Murakami Haruka, which is a Japanese writer. So I'm Murakami Haruki in Korea. Because that writer usually start writing after the running in the very early morning, and I actually follow like 여성인가요, 남성인가요? Like him, that writer. So my routine is as soon as I get up, I get ready to go out running, and then after that in the morning time, the AM time, I spend time to write my stories. So on average, in the mornings, I write about 3 to 4 hours. Today was no exception. When I'm traveling, when I take a trip, I don't break this routine. So I got up, I went for running this morning, and then I wrote for a few hours writing, and then now I'm here for this session.
네, 그리고 여행은 제게 제일 많은 영감을 주는 것 중에 하나인데요. 왜냐하면 저는 SF를 쓸 때 제일 중요하게 느끼는 감각이 세계를 낯설게 느끼는 감각인데, 여행을 가면은 그 문화와 언어가 전부 다르잖아요. 그래서 마치 외계 행성에 떨어진 듯한 느낌이 들어서 이제 오늘도 오전에 이제 글을 쓰고 점심 때 잠깐 이 근처를 돌아다니면서 낯선 문화들을 좀 체험하고, 덕분에 이제 비에 다 바지가 젖었지만 그러고 왔습니다.
Actually, definitely traveling gives me a lot of inspiration. Maybe the most inspiration, because the SF world is like being in strange world. Traveling gives me that same emotion, because when you go into different countries, you face the different culture, different language, and it's as if you arrived in different planet than Earth. So writing for me, especially SF writing, is you want to write about something that you haven't known about. So something that is not familiar, say unfamiliarity factor. The traveling really gives me a lot of this inspiration. So that's why I quite like traveling and try to find many inputs for my stories by traveling.
Okay, so we hope you get inspired by your travel in Hong Kong. And
I missed one interpretation. So this morning as well, after running, after writing a few hours, I had some time left for this session. So I went around, I went out, and then I got soaked. My feet are wet. But I like really looking at those, unfamiliar surroundings and listen to people's voices. And so that was my experience of Hong Kong during, before this session.
so we hope we read something about that in the future.
보게 대해서도 글쓰기에 나오면 나중에 읽고 싶대요.
Yeah, and I'll be like, I was there. I talked to her that afternoon.
그리고 자기도 그 글쓰기 아마 부분에 이거 기여하지 않았을까 여기에 같이 있으니까.
So another question from the audience is, what is the difference as a script writer for drama and a book author, as per you?
그러니까 그 스크립트를 쓰는 것과 어떤 드라마화하는 작업을 하는 것과 책으로 나오기 위한 소설을 쓰는 글쓰기는 어떤 차별을 가지고 있을까요? 서로 차이가 있을까요?
제일 큰 차이는요. 소설의 상상력에는 제한이 없거든요. 어디까지나 무궁무진하게 나아갈 수 있지만 드라마는 자본과 표현의 한계가 있잖아요. 그렇다 보니 네, 자본이 붙고 돈이 들어가니까 어떤 표현할 수 있는 세계가 소설보다 작은 거예요. 그런 제한이 많다의 느낌이었고 여러모로 어떤 매 순간 장면들에 되게 힘을 실어야 한다. 약간 이런 차이가 있는 것 같습니다.
I think the biggest difference is the limitation of imagination when you dramatize a novel. Because when you are writing a story, there's no limitation at all for imagination. You can imagine whatever you like and whatever you want to write, you can write. There's no limitation. But dramas, first of all, you think about success, commercial success, and there's some, the capital investment involved, and so the expression is actually somewhat limited. I think, and also you have to put so much efforts in creating different scenes in the dramas. But that's very different from the story writing, because you leave it to the reader's imagination.
All right, so I hope that answers your question. And now we go to a very interesting question that I have got from the audience. Are you concerned that your work is popular among young people and that disconnects you with the older generation and the elites who run the society?
혹시 그런 그 젊은 세대들에게 지금 많은 인기를 얻고 있는 것이 걱정이 되지는 않으신지. 왜냐하면은 지금 기성세대들은 이제 좀 나이가 든 사람들이고 또 엘리트들이라든지 그런 사람들이 지금 세계를 장악하고 있고 지배하고 있는데 젊은 세대들은 힘도 없고 나약하고 근데 그들이 이제 본인의 작품을 좋아한다는 것에 대해서 어떤 걱정이 들지는 않으신지 재미있는 질문이라고 생각합니다.
네, 저도 처음 생각해 보게 됐는데요. 근데 글쎄요, 뭔가 저는 언제나 항상 문화의 도전과 어떤 과감함은 젊은 세대들에게서 많이 나오고, 물론 제가 이제 저도 함께 나이를 들어갈 때에는 좀 더 다른 역량의 무언가를 펼치겠죠, 문화적으로도. 그래서 그런지 그 젊은 친구들이 많이 좋아해 준다는 거에 대해서의 두려움보다는 더 도전해봐도 되겠다, 더 과감하게 많은 걸 시도해봐도 되겠다라는 생각이 더 많이 드는 것 같습니다.
This is really first time to think about that actually. Thank you for inspiring that to me, because But I think that the one society and one culture to progress is that because of the young people's challenges and young people's boldness that has formed the history. So I think maybe when I get older, probably I'll have different influences on different age groups. But at the moment, I'm very happy that the young generation really embrace my works, because I really want to challenge and expand my imagination and more bold. And then the young people like my style, then I can be even more bold and more challenging. So that gives me more freedom to write, whatever I like, and because it's appealing to young generations.
I think that's beautifully articulated, yes. You write for your audience, and if your audience is the young generation who expect you to take risks and be bold, so you do, yes. So another question we have is also very interesting, I think. Will you use a chatbot or AI to help you in writing? Does it help?
글쓰기 할 적에 지금 신기술인 챗봇이나 AI 기술을 이용하시기도 하십니까?
네.
The answer is yes.
네, 언제 이용하냐면요. 다른 국적을 가진 캐릭터들의 이름을 지을 때 많이 씁니다. 그래서 전에는 그 어떤 이름들이 유행하는지 모르니까 자칫 너무 올드한 이름을 쓴다거나 안 맞을 때가 있잖아요. 근데 그래서 그때는 어떤 그 나라의 축구 선수들, 운동 선수들 이름을 굉장히 많이 참고를 했는데 이제 요즘에는 챗봇에다가 2025년 홍콩에서 가장 유행하는 이름 좀 알려줘 이런 식으로 많이 이용합니다.
I use chatbot technology when I think of when I try to give the names to my characters because before without the AI or chatbot technology. I had to just rely on my experience and look at the research, make my own researches. But it could be old names that doesn't really go with this character. So I had always doubts like this. Sometimes I just borrowed famous sports people's names and borrowed some famous footballers' names. But nowadays, for example, I can ask chatbot, what is the most popular names now in Hong Kong in 2025? Then they will tell me.
So AI is the future, and there is no way a science fiction author can ignore it, right? So yeah, but so she takes the little help that she needs, but all the beautiful writing is obviously her own. That's what the
라이팅 자체는 본인의 손에서 나온 거라고 저는 생각합니다.
Yes.
Correct.
All right. So one of our audience would like to know more about the co-authored project with other Korean and Chinese women writers. And also he wants to know why body is the main theme of this writing.
Body?
Yeah, body. Like human body, yeah.
지금 이제 한국 여성 작가들과 중국 여성 작가들과 같이 협력해서 작업도 하시고 그러시는데 거기에 대해서 조금 더 알고 싶고요. 그리고 또 하나는 이제 몸의 육체에 관한 뭐 그런 주제가 있었나요? 그게 엔솔로지예요. 그래서 거기에 대해서 좀 더 알고 싶다고.
네, 그게 이렇게 정말 몸에 관한 엔솔로지여서 6명의 작가들이 그 신체성을 가지고 쓴 소설이고요. 이렇게 작년이 아니고 지난달에 한국 서울국제도서전에서 처음으로 소개가 되었고 이제 그게 중국에서 출판 승인이 나서 다음 달 8월에 아예 출간이 될 예정입니다. 네.
As you know a little bit more about anthology, this is the exactly about the body that we try to focus in our anthologies. The anthology made by 6 women writers of Korean writers and Chinese women writers, and we have this theme of body. And also last month we had in Seoul we had the international the book fair, something like that in June, and in August next month it will be published in China, the anthology. So if that can answer your question.
All right, so our audience is very insightful. They know quite a lot, yes. So that's amazing. And another question related to that is, so you do work with writers outside of South Korea, such as Chinese writers. And so are you planning to work on a collaborative project on any other subject other than sci-fi?
그러니까 다른 국가의 그 작가들과도 지금 콜라보를 많이 하고 계신데 그러면은 그 다른 국가의 그 작가들과 SF 장르 외에 다른 장르의 어떤 뭐 구상도 하고 계십니까? 같이 할 프로젝트라든가?
아니요. 아직 SF 외에 다른 구상들은 오지는 않았습니다. 네.
I didn't get any offers, the project offers other than SF genre yet. Yeah.
All right, I hope that answers your question. So one of our audience would actually like to know, who is your favorite science fiction writer or any science fiction writer that has inspired you?
지금 가장 좋아하는 SF 라이터가 있다면, 작가가 있다면 말씀해 주시고요. 그리고 What was the second question?
And any science fiction writer that has inspired you?
그리고 어떤 가장 좋아하지 않더라도 본인에게 영감을 주는
한국에서는 한국 작가로는 그 김초엽 작가님 네. 그 작가님과 그리고 김보영 작가님이랑 그리고 배명훈 작가님은 많긴 한데요. 그분들의 작품이 제가 한국에서도 충분히 SF를 쓸 수 있구나를 많이 느꼈던 작가님들이라서 그분들의 책을 굉장히 많이 추천을 하고 그리고 이제 정보라 작가님도 뭔가 SF도 쓰시고 호러도 쓰시지만 그 작가님의 작품도 굉장히 많은 영향을 받고 있습니다.
I got influenced by those writers, Kim Cho-yeop, Kim Bo-young, and another Bae Myung-hoon. They are all SF writers, and I read their works, and then I found the possibility of SF writing through their books. So I would recommend, if someone wants to write SF stories, I would recommend to read these writers' books. And also I get inspired by a writer called Jung Bora, who also writes horror stories as well, SF stories and horror stories. And she's very inspiring to me.
All right, I haven't read any of these authors, but I completely understand how inspired you must be feeling by all these women authors who write SF and horror or a mix of the two, yes. We have two more questions from the audience. So one of them is, do you have any plans for a full-length novel? Full-length novel, like a big novel, Big novel. Full-length novel.
So it's a long story.
A long novel, yeah.
You mean the series of books?
A series of books, yeah.
제 욕심이 그거예요. 저는 제 꿈 중에 하나가 한국의 해리포터를 만들자. 한국의 셜록 홈즈를 만들자가 제 목표인데 그 두 책의 특징이 결국에는 살아있는 캐릭터가 독자들에게 꾸준히 사랑받는 거잖아요. 그래서 그 공부를 굉장히 열심히 하고 있습니다. 어떻게 해야 매력적인 캐릭터를 만들 수 있을까 이렇게.
That's actually my dream you're talking about, because my dream is one of my dreams is I want to write something like Harry Potter in Korea, something like Sherlock Holmes in Korea. So the characters in those stories, they are living characters, and they are forever loved by generation after generation. I think they are loved by people, the readers, and I want to create a character like that, and I want to write a series of books with that character.
I'm sure you will, and all of our love and best wishes for that. And the last question is, again, a very interesting one. Have you ever imagined working in any other profession if you were not a writer, and what would that be?
만약에 본인이 이렇게 작가라는 직업을 갖지 않게 되었다면은 어떤 직업을 하고 있으리라고 생각하십니까? 작가를 택하지 않았다면은 어떤 직업을 갖고 싶으십니까?
저는 작가가 아니었다면 아마 지금 그런 직업이 가능할지 모르겠지만 고고학자가 되고 싶었어요. 그래서 그 전 세계를 떠다니면서 공룡 뼈를 조금 줍고 그 문명의 시초를 좀 찾아다니는 직업을 택하지 않았을까 싶습니다.
I think if I haven't become a writer, probably I would like to be an archaeologist. That I can travel all around the world and maybe discover some ancient bones of the 공룡이 뭐였지? The ancient animal, the British Museum. Huh? Dinosaurs. Sorry about that. Dinosaur bones. And also, I would want to pursue, to discover the very beginning of the human civilization. I would be very interested in doing that.
Wow, so what an amazing dream for alternative career, right? And also something you can write books on, right?
거기에 대해서도 쓰시면 되겠네요.
And maybe then we'll have mummies and zombies together because you will be an archaeologist.
좀비랑 그 고고하게 추구하는 그런 것도 소설에 반영할 수 있겠다고요.
All right. So with that, we come to the end of the audience's question and answer round, and Ms. Cheon answered the questions so beautifully, and Ms. Meera explained the interpretation of the, everything so nicely in English that we felt actually the essence of what Ms. Cheon was saying. So thank you, Ms. Cheon, for, answering all our questions so patiently and with such, true vigor and spirit. And Ms. Meera for interpreting it so beautifully that her essence was not lost. And thank you for this wonderful audience who had such amazing questions. I really enjoyed this session, so thank you to all of you actually here today. And we have the book signing sessions now, so Ms. Cheon's books are outside. You can pick up and get them signed if you want. And with that, I think we'll come to the end of today's session. So thank you everyone once again for this wonderful session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the all the events happening at the Hong Kong Book Fair. Thank you.